Within this week's episode of Heal Your Home, we're going to be looking at mechanical airflow systems, and will you be blown away with any positive impacts on you and your family's well-being?
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
We're going to be looking at mechanical airflow systems and whether they're worth the money and whether they're worth the hassle of installing. Plus, I'll be speaking to Dave Parker, an electrician who specialises in mechanical airflow systems. And of course, we will have a listener question and a tenant top tip.
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
So in this week's episode of Heal Your Home, we're going to be looking at mechanical airflow systems. And what are mechanical airflow systems? Well, in all intents and purposes, they move air through a property. So they have forced mechanical airflow through a property. Now, there are several ways that this can be done. You can have mechanical ventilation with heat recovery. So in essence, it forces air through a property, which typically then can reduce the amount of energy that's needed to be taken out of the heating system. It then reduces the amount of heat energy required to maintain a comfortable living temperature, thus reducing the amount of energy and therefore saving costs in the long run to maintain a living temperature in your home. As well as that, you have a positive input ventilation system. This doesn't necessarily have a heat recovery system. It's obviously going to be a cheaper option, but it does have a forced airflow through the property. This type of system does tend to rely on more natural ventilation, so opening windows, trickle vents, that sort of thing, to then draw nice air ventilation into the property. This sort tends to have more of a filtration system within roof voids, things like that, but it still does a very good job. And then we have exhaust-only ventilation, which then takes out such as extractor fans and extractor hoods within kitchens and bathrooms, so all of which have their own benefits, but obviously there is price limitations and also property access limitations for each of these. For example, roof voids, eave access, and there's noise pollution as well, because each one will require, or each one will create a form of noise pollution. So you want to make sure where you're putting these, you really think about where you're putting them. You're not putting them in a bedroom environment, for example, or a sitting room environment where you're trying to relax, especially if you're noise sensitive, because this can cause a lot of issues and irritability. When you're looking at mechanical ventilation with heat recovery as well, it can be fantastic, especially if you have trunking and ventilation through the property. Locations in central locations such as hallways, landings, they're really great places because they're normally central within a property. But the benefits of these, what are the benefits? Well, the massive one is indoor air quality. Now, it is continuously going, it's continuously filtering the air, whether you're there, whether you're there not. You don't need to think about it. It's in place, it's running all the time. Now, hypothetically, if it's in the right location and has been installed by a competent contractor, this will cause a lovely airflow through the property, and it will then go through a filter, which is a big box that normally fits within a roof void or eaves, so tucked away, you won't be able to see it, and normally there's a little white disc which fits in the ceiling, which is all you see really of the trunking system and the system in its entirety. And therefore then the air flows through, filters all the nasties and pollutants and volatile organic compounds and dust particles, everything that can potentially cause asthmatic reactions, respiratory issues, fatigue, all of these things that can cause allergy reactions, respiratory issues, and mold spores, damp, relative humidity increases, things like that, which can then cause well-being issues in your property. So this is by far the biggest proven improvement by using a mechanical airflow system. And energy efficiency within your home, especially with the heat recovery system, because what it is doing is it is balancing out as that air is flowing through the property. So it's balancing out that temperature throughout the property. So especially if you have sun beating through a window in one particular room, rather than that room becoming really hot and the rest of the property becoming really cold, what it's going to do is it's going to take that hot air, travel it through the property and make sure it's a comfortable level temperature throughout the property. So you're not, in theory, going to get cold spots in areas, and you're not going to get overheating. So if it's an older property, it keeps damp at bay, for example, and if you're in a radon area or anything like that, it can help keep those harmful gases and particles from becoming a bit an area or a level which can become an issue. But then also, you're then looking at indoor pollutants as well, which again linking back to indoor air quality, which can then build up. When you're looking at these things, they are always of a long-term benefit. If you're looking at small initial short-term gains, this will not be for you. It's the same as every other sustainable investment. Short-term gains will not be for you. Immediate short-term gains, obviously health benefits. You should see an immediate reaction in the sense of the property will remain cleaner for longer, temperatures will remain balanced a lot more noticeably throughout the year. But in the sense of energy efficiency and sustainability, you're looking at over a longer period of time, which is then a financial saving in the long run. I personally am a strong believer in mechanical airflow systems, regardless of the type of property that you live in, because whatever the type of property, they will benefit you and your family. And there are a vast amount of options out there for whatever type of property, but just make sure that you have the right contractor and the right type of knowledge of the mechanical ventilation units before investing, because they are intrusive and they obviously do have a cost involved.
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
A really interesting conversation with Dave Parker, who is an expert in installation of mechanical airflow systems. Let's find out what we've talked about. But so I think the best person to introduce yourself, because I could, do half a job, but I think you would be the best person.
Yeah, I'm Dave Parker. I'm DA Parker Electrical. I've been an electrical contractor for about 35 years, or electrician, but I started fitting dry masters about 8 years ago.
Fantastic. And for those who don't know, what is a dry master?
A dry master is a damp and condensation unit, so a PIV, positive input ventilation. So all it is a unit that goes in your loft space, and it's actually blowing air into your property. What we've been told over the years by the government is all to seal your properties, which is great. So we've had double glazing fitted, we've got rid of the open fires, we've got log burners, we've sealed our properties, but we're still breathing, we're still showering, we're still cooking, we're still drying clothes, still got wet pets. That moisture's got to go somewhere. So what happens is you tend to start seeing condensation on the windows or a cold spot, and then you tend to see like dampness maybe in the top corners, sometimes in the cupboard, stuff feels damp, mildew. Once the mould starts, then you've got the spores that come out, and then it's just really bad. So it's bad for your breathing and everything.
Yeah.
So it's not good stuff. So all we do is you can, if you have a new build, you could possibly have a air recycling unit that goes in the loft, but that costs a lot of money because there's different fan units within different rooms sucking it up and blowing around, getting the warmth out and then putting it back. But with the dry master, it's a simple unit. You can fit it within an hour to 2-3 hours. Goes in the hallway or in upstairs, and it's just constantly blowing air into the property. The air is filtered, so it's filtered air coming in, so it's good for anyone who suffers from asthma.
Yeah.
And it's like a balloon effect. It will do your hallway first. Once that's pressurized, where your doors are open or shut,
Yeah.
it will then work its way into the next rooms.
Okay.
So it does the whole property.
Yeah.
And then it then works in conjunction with your extractor fans in your bathroom. So even if your fan's not on, it's still blowing that air out through. So it's moving the air within the property.
Right. So, I mean, I'm assuming it would have to have the doors open for it to...
No, it will, unless you've got real thick pile carpet like you used to have back in the day.
Yeah.
Even with your door shut, you've normally got a gap underneath.
Okay.
And because the hallway's pressurised first,
Yeah.
it will then go
really?
around the whole house.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so it is literally just like a balloon.
Oh, wow.
So if you imagine those pinholes, and then it's finding keyholes, window vents if you've got it, your existing extractor fan, and it can be moving that air around. And then you go about your normal day to day.
Yeah.
So if you open a window,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. just the air is going out.
So is it pushing the air? It's not recycling it back into
No,
the
no.
roof?
So so it's using the air from the loft space,
Yeah.
which is then drawing it in through the eaves or through the felt
Yeah.
into the property.
Okay.
So the air is slightly cooler that's
Yeah.
coming in your property, but if you're suffering from damp and condensation, what's happening when you put your heating on? The air has actually got moisture in it, so it takes longer for that air to warm up.
Yeah.
The air that comes in from the loft space and from outside, it's cooler air but dry,
Right.
and
Okay.
it warms up quicker.
Okay.
And
Sure.
by putting the unit up high in the loft, top of the landing, all your hot air rises,
Yeah.
and it's pushing it back down. So it's
Right.
kind of a win-win,
So it's recycling that air back down into the property, and
pushing
then
it back down.
Yeah.
And
Ah.
you're getting fresh air from outside, circulating the air within your property,
Yeah.
and it's moving. Yeah, so you're not getting stagnant areas where that mold can build up.
Fantastic. And if you've got bigger buildings, or if you've got a townhouse, so you've got sort of like 2, 3, 4, stories.
Yeah.
Would one of those still be enough?
They can do quite a big area, so they can do like a 5-6 bedroom property.
Okay.
The only issue is if you start going above 3 floors, you're supposed to have a fire rated one. Now the Dry Master, the unit's still the same, it's just got a fire damper cover on it.
Right.
So it's just for fire regs.
Okay.
But yeah, they will do a whole property. It's very rare you get 2 in one property. Maybe if you've got an annex and you've got like a double glazed door between that,
Yeah.
then you might want to say, right, I'll have 2 fitted.
Sure.
But you can adjust them to what size. They range, the flow rates go from 1 up to 6. So 1 is 10 litres per second coming in your property.
Okay, wow.
6 is 60 litres per second coming in your
Wow,
property.
okay,
So
yeah.
normally the maximum you'd put it up to is probably a 4.
Okay.
But you can get a boost switch,
Okay.
which is remote. And
Yeah.
then all you do then is you hit the boost, puts up to full speed
Yeah.
for 2 hours, then goes back to normal.
Right. So what happens? Is it noticeable if you put it? Say you put it up to 6, but you have a 1-bedroom place that's really small. Is it noticeable?
Yes, you'll get a lot more air movement.
Yeah.
So the reason you'd only hit the boost, once the system's set, so you normally get someone qualified or read the rules and how to fit it.
Yeah.
So if it's a 1-bedroom place or a 2-bedroom place, you probably go to 2, which is 20 litres per second. 3-bedroom place, probably 3. And then you can judge on what speed you want to do it. Once it's set, you just let it go. So
Okay.
it just does its magic. It's got sensors within the unit.
Yeah.
So I normally set it so if the loft space gets above about 28 degrees, it will shut down because it realises you shouldn't have a damp issue.
Okay.
But then come later in the evening, so summer's day it will shut down because
Yeah.
the loft gets hot. It will shut down, and then come 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, once it cools down again,
Yeah.
it will start up and do its magic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And have you seen if it's before one of these is installed, and hypothetically you've got black spot mold and things like that in
Yeah.
the property? Have you seen good effects or sort of from?
Yeah, it's absolutely. If you do get a chance, just check my reviews on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go into some properties and you walk through the door and you can just feel the damp and humidity in the air, and people don't realise when you're in it day in, day out how bad it is.
Yeah.
And literally I've fit the unit and within 24 hours they're, oh my God,
Yeah.
they can just feel the fresher air. It's nicer, it's breathing.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
helps with your chest. It's
Yeah.
a win-win. Within 24 hours, there's such a big difference.
Yeah. Fantastic. So if someone was looking at getting one of these,
Yes.
Obviously do your research is the number one. But what would you say in regards to looking at kind of how they as a family behave to what kind of mechanical airflow system you might want?
If you put clothes in the tumble dryer, you'll probably get about 2 litres of water for 1 load of clothes. So
Wow.
if you imagine you're drying those clothes in your house, that's 2 litres of water flying around the air.
Yeah.
So will keep going around until it actually hits a colder spot, and that's when it will turn into condensation and moisture.
Yeah.
So normally it's the windows, but with double glazing becoming so good now, sometimes it's not the windows, it's just a certain cold wall. But yeah, do your research. So maybe try not to dry your clothes in the house.
Yeah.
Be thinking about that. Maybe if you are, have it in a room upstairs and have that window slightly cracked open so it's got more of a chance to get out.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all shower. If you've got loads of kids,
Yeah.
everyone's showering. You know what I mean? It's just day to day.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
People leaving the doors open when they're having a shower, things like that.
Yeah, the moisture. It's people. So often people say to me, "Oh yeah, but I always leave my window open." I said, "Well, that's great, but doesn't mean the moisture's actually going outside. It might just mean the wind's coming through and pushing that moisture around to the next room, which is colder, and that's why you're getting those issues."
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the things I come across quite a lot, where they say, I don't have an extractor fan, but I've got a window. But you actually explain to people, well, when you have a window and you open it, it reduces the surface temperature, and then it actually condensates before it can get out of the window. So it accelerates condensation, which accelerates black spot mold. So it's like, well, close the window, keep an extractor fan on.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I try to fit is an inline extractor fan, because there's nothing worse than you buy an extractor fan, you put it on the wall, and then it starts rattling, and then people just turn it off.
Yeah. What's an inline one?
Inline one. So what you get is literally you get to see a round vent in the ceiling, and it will go in the loft, and there'll be a fan unit up in the loft, and then it will blow outside.
Okay.
So it's in line with the unit. So you haven't got the noisy fan right on your wall.
Okay.
You've only got a little vent there.
So the fan itself is in the roof.
Yes.
Okay.
Out the way.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure. People sometimes will just put a ducting up there to the fan and ducting straight out. But if you don't put insulated ducting or put some insulation over it, all that happens is the moisture goes into the loft space, into that ducting, just turns to water, fills up your ducting and starts dripping back in, or destroys your fan.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's just thinking about what you're doing and trying to make sure you do it to a good standard.
Yeah.
So,
or even worse than that, they don't bother putting it outside. They just put it in.
Yeah, I know. I've been to properties. Yeah, I went to one last week, and they had this lovely new fans going up through, and the fan was mounted, and then there was no ducting coming off it, and it was just like, okay. So I've maybe there was a breakdown in communication with the roofer. They didn't put a roof vent in, or they didn't want to put it out. But you get to see all sorts.
You do, absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't have a roof, void, so it's in, say, an apartment, is there any options available for people there?
Yeah, so if you've gone into your loft space, you can still possibly have a void either side in the eaves, and you can still put a dry master in there.
Okay.
I would recommend, if you can get a dry master in, get one in. If not, you can get something called a flat master, which is a unit. It's normally on a 4-inch hole, a 100mm hole, will be cut through, and you have a unit mounted to the wall, normally in a cupboard space, and then it blows in. So that's if you haven't got a void or a loft space. But it's the same effect. It's just drawing the air in, giving it a little bit of heat, and then just pressurising the house. Yeah, it's like an extractor fan working backwards.
Yeah. Well, that's a great example, really. Yeah. So for people that want more kind of advice, obviously, and if they want one fitted, where can they find you?
Well, I'm based in Hale, but if you just do any search for Dry Master or New Airs, I'm sure there'll be a local fitter within your area that will be able to fit one. Go to, like say, on Google, go to Dry Master. It will bring you up with New Air. You can read through all their leaflets, information about it, so you're happy with what model you want to go for, really.
Yeah.
They even do one now with, if you're in a city centre and you're worried about maybe lots of traffic going past, you can have a carbon filters ones.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it actually takes the whole carbon, all those emissions, so you can still use it within a city.
Yeah.
We're quite lucky down in Cornwall, we don't normally have those pollution issues, but if you're next to a busy road.
Fantastic. Well, in Cornwall then, because clearly you're the man for the job down here.
Yes.
Who are you? Where can we find you?
Dave Parker, Facebook, DA Parker Electrical. I'm based in Hale, but I go pretty much all around Cornwall fitting these units. Fantastic. I can normally fit a unit between 2 and 3 hours. It's a unit you can fit yourself, but I would recommend get someone to fit it in that knows what they're doing, and then he can set it up correctly for you. So
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
No problem. He's always happy to help.
And now, A listener question for Heal Your Home.
So this week's listener question actually comes from Laura from Reading. Wow, this is I think our first listener question from Reading. Amazing. I think we're doing a bit more work up that way now, which is amazing. And we've got an expedition up there soon. So with mechanical ventilation systems, can I have a flat? Can I have a mechanical ventilation system fitted within my flat? Now, yes, you can, is the answer to that. Yes, you can. Not all mechanical ventilation systems are appropriate because obviously a lot of them are restricted in the sense that they need a roof void or eave space because they're big, cumbersome bits of product. However, there are some that can fit in hallways, etc., and they are designed for apartments and flats. However, now, this is a big however, they all generate noise. Even if they claim to be silent or relatively silent operating, they will have some form of noise. And also they will have some form of protrusion from the wall. So obviously a health and safety hazard. Make sure the placement of such is thought of very carefully, making sure that you're not banging your head if they're on a hallway, for example, but also making sure that they're not in a place where your well-being is important. You need to make sure that you can relax and have a quiet enjoyment, so they're not in a bedroom environment, a sitting room environment, but they are in an area which can then still allow for natural airflow. So companies like New Airflow, they're not the only ones out there, but I know that they are one of the manufacturers of products that do flats and apartments, so it may be worth having a look at those. But yeah, hope that helps.
Jason's tenant top tip.
This week's tenant top tip is about tenants' rights to request a mechanical airflow system. Now, unfortunately, landlords are not required by law to have a mechanical airflow system. However, external vented outputs such as extractor fans in bathrooms and kitchens, yes, they are obviously required to have those, but in the sense of heat recovery systems and things like that are not necessarily required. However, it may well be in the best interest of your landlord to have them if you're in an area that has a high absolute humidity, if it's a coastal location, etc., or in an older building, because obviously, if you think of it from a landlord perspective, it's an investment. And if it's going to be a long-term investment and a property has high maintenance, and if it's a stone building, for example, and every 6 to 12 months they need to redecorate by law to keep up with general maintenance and make sure that that property is kept up to a satisfactory standard for living standards. But actually, if they had a mechanical airflow system in, it would really help reduce those maintenance costs because it wouldn't have to be done as much. Then that may well be an approach as a tenant that you may want to take with your landlord. So this would then benefit the landlord because they wouldn't necessarily have to do as much maintenance within the property. And of course, it would help you as the tenant because it would then give you a mechanical airflow system in your property and also help you and your family's well-being.
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. It really does mean a lot to me and my team. Check out the website at homehealthexpert.co.uk for more information, to check out the services that we can help with for you and your family and improve your home's health, and also for the top tip guides that we have available for you. You can submit listener questions through our website and also by emailing our team at info@homehealthexpert.co.uk or by searching for Home Health Expert on Instagram and Facebook. We will try our absolute best to get round to your questions and help your family out to improve your home's health. Don't forget to subscribe to Heal Your Home wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube if you're watching along. Thanks again for listening, it really does mean a lot. We could not do this without you, and in actual fact it would be completely pointless. So please send in your questions, and I look forward to you joining me in the next episode of Heal Your Home. Your health, your future, it all starts here.